Hello everyone, I'm Tom and welcome back to this episode of the Big Analytics Query. Today we are joined by Harry Asteriades, who is a Power Apps expert, helpfully to talk all things Power Apps with us. Harry, thank you very much for joining. Why don't you talk to us about what Power Apps are and how they're useful to developers? What do they mean for people?
So the Power Apps sit in a suite of Microsoft tools that is called the Power Platform. They contain the Power Apps, but also Power Automate, Power Pages. They're a bunch of tools for businesses to automate processes or create custom apps that they would like to use. As a developer, they might be especially important if you're a Microsoft partner, but they can still be used generally outside of that for just creating custom apps that you can develop quite quickly. Because they are known as low code, you don't need highly experienced developers with decades of experience. You could get, your average employee to go and build these apps, and they can cover, any kind of business process. Because they're low code, you can add custom buttons, displays, formats, forms, anything you like, with almost drag and drop, really. So they're quite useful to use.
Sounds very useful and handy that anyone can start to use them. What sort of things would you use it for? What would you use a Power App for? And what different types are there?
So there are two different types of Power Apps, but generally for a business, they are definitely internal tools. They're not meant for thousands of users, such as what Google will provide, but more internal processes that you want to automate or let users be a part of. So that could include employee management, KPI data that you want users to see, maybe enter. And from there are two types of apps which allow you to do that. So there's model-driven apps and canvas apps. Model-driven apps are very rigid in their structure. They sit on what's called the Dataverse. So that's Microsoft's version of a data store similar to a SQL database. But it's got a nice green logo. It's very
nice.
Built for you. In there, you build a model like in Power BI, such as your semantic model, if you've heard of those. And from there, you can drag and drop forms, which include maybe pie charts, input forms, if you want to change some data. And because of that rigidity, it's very straightforward for the user, and it's strictly a management tool. The second type of app is your Canvas app, which gets a lot more custom. So this is where you have your sleek UI in the front end, where users will come in and be all fancy, they'll be very happy to use it, where you can place your buttons wherever you like and perform very complex processes, or simple ones too, but it can vary.
So what are some real-world examples of how people can use Power Apps? What sort of problems do they solve?
So for each example of the apps I described earlier, for model-driven apps, a great example is for a hospital. So patient records are highly relational. You'll have the patient's information, what medications they took, maybe appointments. So what you can do is if you build your model on top of that in the Dataverse, your model-driven app will use that, and you can create all of these forms to look at said appointments, medications, and information, change them, or simply view them. But for a Canvas app, a good example is for an estate agent who might need information on the fly for a mobile phone when viewing and selling houses for other people. So these could include images of the houses, or as well as little edit forms to change some information. And these Power Apps also include, camera functionality. You could take new pictures in these Power Apps. So benefits in terms of, what can they solve? Well, I think that camera one's a good example. It's built into the app. It's very easy to implement, and it'll work on the fly.
And I guess having it accessible just on a phone as you would walk around, rather than needing to get up a laptop and boot up a full system as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's already expected in the world that these web apps will have a mobile interface. Power Apps supports that fully, yeah.
And so then how can you go about setting up your first Power App? If you've watched this, you've thought of a case that might be helpful within your world that you need solving. How do you go about starting that process?
Yeah, so Microsoft's Power App portal, when you go to that website, it will direct you to how to create a new app, whether that's a blank Canvas app or model-driven app, and it will provide you with a nice suite of examples with predefined data or certain controls, or a completely blank one that you can start with. From here, it will tell you what controls you can add, as well as these things called connectors. So these let you connect to Teams, Excel, or Outlook. So you could even try messaging people from your Power App or putting posts in channels, for example, or simple emails to other users.
Amazing. And then how do you go about making sure that that's properly integrated within the rest of your Microsoft suite?
So in a way, Microsoft already handles this for you. These connectors will be based off your account. And because of Entra ID that Microsoft introduced somewhat recently, it's well secured and it's safe to use, yeah.
And do you have any top tips of if you're starting these accounts, would you use one of these templates, or how would you go about building an app from the ground up?
From the ground up, there's a lot of resources from Microsoft Learn themselves, or a few notable YouTubers who I can't quite name, but extremely good, yeah. But honestly, I think getting into the app, creating what's called your own sandbox environment, developer environment, and just having a go is a good way to start.
And I guess maybe start simple, start on one case before building in all of the connectors at the same time, sort of thing.
Yes, absolutely, yes, step by step. Your apps can become complicated quite quickly as businesses want very specific processes being performed. So just start off slow and see where you can go.
Well, thank you very much, Harry, for joining, and thank you for watching. If you've got any questions about it, then please do drop them in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you next time. Bye!